First of all, I found out I could draw when I was 8 years old.
We pooled our talents and formed Hanna Barbera.
All we're doing is laughing because we're having such a good time. I think that's really the secret.
We worked that way for many, many, many years.
Bill and Joe's relationship, I saw them as they were two guys who worked together like a machine, and Bill had his area of expertise and Joe had his.
They were like totally different. Joe drove a black Cadillac, Bill a white Lincoln. Bill's office is all light colored and lit up beautifully. Joe just like a nightclub.
The example of perhaps a married couple who know each other so well that they're finishing each other's sentences and speaking in shorthand and such.
Yeah, Bill would like run production at the studio. Joe would handle the creative side of things.
And they worked together beautifully and such harmony. They really liked each other.
Both of them had the capability of functioning in a way where there was no question as to who the bosses were. But at the same time, they were able to establish and continue to sustain a relationship with the personnel there.
I respected both Bill and Joe so much. I was so in awe of them as a kid. And then when I was working with them and I would see them walking down the hall, I just thought, these men don't need to work anymore. They have this enormous company with their name on the top of the building. And yet they would be there at work every single day.
He was always telling about how the name Hanna Barbera came along, where he said he really preferred it to be Barbera and Hanna.
Barbera Hanna would look great on the top of the building.
You'd be my guest.
Oh, sure.
And then at night, he went up to the roof on the building and he'd switch the names around.
You know what he used to do? When I left town on the trip, he'd put the lights out behind my name. Yeah, all that was up there was him.
Well, what I did was when they get up on the roof, I had to take the sheep off of my name that he had put on the day before.
Joe was, in addition to being the producer and creator of many of the shows, was the head salesman, and he would go to the networks every year and peddle his shows.
Well, come right in, sir. It's showtime, showtime, showtime. You ain't nothing but a bad town.
Joe Barbera was relentless. He would go to New York with one little drawing and sell a whole season of shows.
Sometimes we do presentation storyboards where Joe would work out a script and we'd storyboard it and he'd present that to the networks.
Well, Joe was really the creative head. He ran presentation. Ewo worked under Joe. And we would make drawings and they'd go into Joe for approval. And Joe also had his hand in production too.
Bill, on the other hand, physically ran the studio. Once the show had been sold to the network, then Bill would take over.
There was a transition there from creation to production, and it needed to be separate. But yes, Bill ramrodded. He was very good at it too.
This time, we put our foot down. Yay!
If a show was ready to ship, or was needed to ship time-wise, and it wasn't done, Mr. Hanna would roll up his sleeves and do whatever it had to be done to get that show shipped on time. He was remarkable. He worked and worked and worked right beside everybody.
While live-action production is collaborative to an extent, animation, for me, is much more so. Between the artists, the visualization of a location or the characters, the voice actors, the writers, the director, everyone is working on the material in a way at the same time, and one discipline is influencing another discipline.
Bill has set up a system that was so efficient. What you do is you do all the pre-production here. So from script to storyboard to models to color key to style of the background. They even had a how to paint the background.
When he and Bill had the MGM studio making Tom and Jerry's, Joe would do all the layouts. And they did the storyboards too. And Bill, people didn't know that Bill wrote music besides running the production company. These are very talented guys.
Mr. Barbera used to bounce ideas off of me all the time.
Joe would work in scenes. He would have flashes of gags or scenes, and my job was to take note and try to knit them together.
Oftentimes, we would get the storyboard, and Joe would mark with his red ink, "See me, Joe."
Come on in, we're about to start. Animation is not in the limelight, you know. People don't see you. You work in a desk, you work in an office, and you create on paper, and nobody sees you doing that. So there's no glamour in reality. It's just hard work and teamwork.
Before I'd gone to Hanna Barbera, they told me, "Oh, this is a sweatshop. You don't want to work there." But when I went in there, it was just busy, 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 like a beehive, and I found this is where I want to work.
As long as you gave them the numbers, they like to get 100 feet of film out of the animators a week.
That really made for some giddy times around the studio.
To break the ice, I guess, they used to shoot rubber bands off the ceiling so it would drop right onto your head.
They were always teasing each other. They even had a bucket of water up on the door. And whenever anyone would come through that door, they'd get a bucket of water. And they'd laugh and just carry on.
All I can say is, like, don't open that door.
So it wasn't all work. We all played around a lot, too.
That was a time when the animation theatrical business was, major studios had discontinued making those films, and there was this flood of talent around. And Hanna Barbera is going into TV with animation, so the studio was packed with all these great artists and animators and writers and musicians and editors.
There was, I think, one season we had 14 different shows. Can you imagine? And each show had like 13 segments.
And we just got an awful lot of shows that year. And we went from doing 1,200 feet a week the previous year, all of a sudden we had to produce 5,000, maybe 5,200 feet a week.
And we became an enormous factory of cartoons. We were recording 2, 3, 4 episodes a day, 5 days a week.